Welcome to the Rockabye Revenue Podcast with me, Abby Watson. I'm a mum of 4 and a business strategist, and I train people to become hypnobirthing teachers. In the last decade, I've built a thriving baby business that grew beyond my wildest dreams. This podcast is for you if you run a business or dream of running a business in the birth and baby industry. You want to change lives whilst making more money. I'm talking about creating sustainable income whilst being present for the people that matter most. I believe for our baby businesses to have the impact we desire, we must be rewarded. On this podcast, expect me to share actionable strategies without the jargon. I've been where you are. I've built a business while raising 4 little ones, and now I'm here to help you turn your passion into profit while creating the life you've always dreamed of. So let's get started. Hello and Happy New Year. We are in 2025. So because of that, I am sure you are seeing everywhere lots of posts about New Year's goals, New Year, new me, what are you going to be doing differently in this year, and all that kind of capers. Perhaps we're also overrun by lots of posts of how great everybody's 2024 was and what they're going to do even better this year. It happens every single year, and you might be sat there thinking, I'm not ready for this. I'm not ready to start thinking about goals, resolutions. I'm still like in holiday mode from Christmas, you know? Or maybe you're a bit like me and you're getting the kids back to school and it just all feels a lot. Never mind thinking about what you're going to do really great this year. Every single year, I feel the same. And it takes me a while to really think about the year ahead. And sometimes previously, I've almost felt like bad about that, like, oh, I should have thought about this earlier. Why haven't I got goals? Oh, I'm missing out on this prime time to set really impactful goals. Well, firstly, we can set goals whenever we blooming want to. And I'd recommend you set goals. Goals are really, really powerful. But it doesn't have to be at the start of January. So if you haven't yet set some goals, worry not. And if the thought of setting goals right now, even though it is the start of the year and everyone's on about it, if that feels too much, that's okay. I have got an alternative for you today that, for me, feels so much more doable. And actually, I'd argue it has a bigger impact. Especially for me, who is very, very keen on my business being something that allows me to live a great life, I don't set goals in my business for the sake of setting goals. Ultimately, I want success in my business so I have a great life. So doing it this way really feels super aligned. So what I'm talking about today is choosing a word of the year instead of jumping into goals and resolutions just because everybody else has told you should. Let's face it, 80% of resolutions have failed before February. My gosh. With a word of the year, the great thing about it is It is not. The great thing is, it's not rigid, you know? With a word of the year, you are setting your vibe for the year, your intention, how you want things to be. But it's not rigid. It's not something that you either like fail or achieve, you know? So if we set our resolution to be active on Instagram stories every day this year, you know, you could definitely feel like there's an all or nothing. You're either doing that or you're not doing it. Whereas a word of the year is much more fluid and much more applicable to anything that you do in your business. And it's all about the way you want your business to feel this year, the focus you want to have. And the great blooming thing about it being a word is it's memorable, you know? It's memorable. You can have it there reminding you every single day, and it can help have that. It can help that it's that kind of like checkpoint, you know? You're wanting to do something new in your business and you think about your word and you think, oh, is that aligned with my word? You know? So that you're constantly checking that what you've decided that this year is going to feel like, the actions that you're taking, you're checking they're aligned with that. We're going to pause for a quick break now. And when we come back, I'm going to talk to you about how you can choose your word. I'm going to tell you about my word for the year and how you can make sure that that word is front of mind. So don't go anywhere. I will be right back. If you've ever considered training to become a hypnobirthing teacher yourself, I have the perfect opportunity for you. This January, I am hosting a free 3-day free training just for you. This training will help you explore what being a hypnobirthing teacher is like, what you actually do, how to be an incredible one, and how to attract clients. We start on the 27th of January for 1 hour each day. Finishing our training on Wednesday the 29th, you will learn so much, leave so inspired, and really importantly, have clarity on this rewarding path. If you'd like to reserve your spot, please do save your space. In the show notes, you'll see the link there, or come over to my Instagram and DM me free training and I'll send you all the details. I'd love to see you there. Welcome back. So we were talking about word of the year rather than resolutions. And, you know, for one moment, I am not saying don't have resolutions. If you want to have resolutions, go for it. I am cheering you on. But if it all feels too much and you don't feel ready to think about goals for this year, worry not. You can set them at any time. And for now, you might choose to have a word of the year that keeps you super aligned with where you want to go and what this year wants to feel like. So, I have sat down and I have chosen my word of 2005, and I'm going to be making sure that I have this word written all over the place. So it currently is a post-it note on my mirror. I'm going to make sure when I buy myself a new journal, it's there on the front page, nice and big. You know, I'm going to have these frequent reminders of my word of the year. So constantly I'm checking that the things that I'm doing in my business and in my life are really aligned with what I want my focus to be. But how did I get to my word? Firstly, let me share my word with you. So my word of 2025 is streamlined. Streamlined. I know what you're thinking. Super sexy, eh? Really not, is it? sounds like super technical and boring. Streamlined. I nearly went with the word system, but that felt even more like technical and boring. But really, the word system relates to the word that I've chosen, streamlined. Okay. So when I was reflecting back on 2024, and, by reflecting, I'm not saying, I sat there for an hour reflecting and writing. I have not had a chance to do that yet. So what I mean by that is I had a little think about 2024, and I thought about what things had gone well and been brilliant in my business. And the things that really stood out were the things that have made my business easier long term, So creating, here's the word, systems, repeatable processes that take the guesswork out of things. And where I've done that, things have felt a lot more easier. What do I need in my business going forward? Well, those of you who've been listening to this podcast previously will know that I've had a really challenging year, and as we speak now, it is 4 of my children. I have got 4 children, so it's all of my children. I now have a full diagnosis of autism, and they have, a lot of challenges around schooling, and, they have a lot of challenges that other children their age may not have. So my life is really full on. Now, as I've previously spoke about on this podcast, there has definitely been times this year where I've been like, how can I continue to work around my children when my children need so much of me? And, I've previously shared that, as much as we can think, makes life easier, come away from work, I've actually used my children's challenges as my motivation. If you've not listened to that podcast episode, I can't remember which episode it was, but it was one of the first few. So it was either 2 or 3, I think. But yeah, I talked about that there, and I talked about how I've made those challenges my motivation to create this successful business that does give me so much freedom and also demonstrates to my children how working can be. Now, it's not sustainable though for me to continue this business if I am manually doing everything myself, if I am constantly in the weeds and not embracing systems and not streamlining things. So whilst the times I've done that in 2024, it's been really useful, I know I can resist it because sometimes streamlining things means doing it in a bit of a different way, changing how you've been doing it all along. And sometimes that takes a bit of headspace and I can resist that. But I know how much that has impacted my business positively, and beyond my business, my life positively, and made it so much sustainable to have this business part of my life. Okay, so that's why I have chosen the word streamlined to be my word of the year for 2025, because I need to embrace those systems to make my business more streamlined, to take a lot of the headspace out of it. Okay, so can you see how I got to my word? I thought about the past year and what had worked really well and what I wanted more of in 2025. And I also thought about this coming year, what season of life I'm in, what I need to be going on in my business that's going to make it work more harmoniously with my life, And I thought about, what do I want that kind of reminder to be, daily. So when I'm checking in on what I'm doing, I'm thinking about that word. I'm thinking about whether it fits, with where I want to go. So that's what I would invite you to do too. Think about the previous year. What do you want more of? What's worked well? What season of life are you in? Because we must consider, especially if you're listening to this and you are a parent, our seasons of life are forever changing. And we must take that on board when we are thinking of how we want things to be, in our business. Okay. So what season of life? And how do you want this year? So your word of the year might be freedom. You might want more freedom, Your word of the year might be simplicity. Your word of the year might be abundance. You really want more money or more clients, So really sit down and think about what you want your word of the year to be based on how you want this year to feel. What you want to be that number one thing that you are thinking about that really checks you in when you are thinking about what you are going to do. Because what this means is when you start thinking to yourself in March, you start thinking, I'm going to start a podcast. You check in with your word of the year. And you're like, is that aligned with my word of the year? Or you start thinking, I'm going to create an online course. Or I'm going to collaborate with this person. Or I'm going to do this. Or I'm going to write a book. You're checking in with that word of the year and thinking, does that match my word of the year? Is that what I really want? Or actually, is there something else that would be better aligned with my word of the year? And then when you've decided your word of the year, you want to be reminded of that word of the year frequently. Yeah? You want to have it, written on a sign that's going to be on your desk. Or you write it on that first page of your journal. Or the screensaver of your phone. Maybe it's a photo of your kids, maybe it's a photo of your dog, whatever. But you take that photo and you edit it. And you also put your word of the year on there. Yeah? You are being constantly reminded so that you are staying true to your word of the year. And it is keeping you focused and it is keeping you in that space that you want this year to be. And please do share with me the word of the year that you have chosen. If you're on Instagram, do come over to loveyourbirth_training. Do drop me a message and send me your word of the year. I would love to know. And please tell me it's a little bit more sexy than mine. Streamlined. So I shall see you next time on another episode of the Rockabye Revenue podcast. See you soon. Bye. Thank you for listening to Rockabye Revenue. I hope this episode has left you with some fresh ideas and bundles of motivation. If you enjoyed this episode, do make sure you click subscribe so you never miss an installment. And if you found this episode useful, I'd love you forever if you leave a 5-star review, helping this podcast reach the ears of more of the helpers in this world. And remember, keep changing lives. See you next time.